It was a regular evening at the local library where I had been working for the past few years. My shift started at 6 p.m. and usually ended at 11 p.m., giving me plenty of time to organize books, assist patrons, and complete other tasks around the library. Most of the foot traffic occurred before 8 p.m., and by 8:30 p.m., the library was typically quite empty. Around 8:30 p.m., a library regular approached me and mentioned that there was a man behaving strangely, wandering around the shelves. I nodded, acknowledging the information, but didn't pay much attention to it at the time. People occasionally exhibited odd behaviors, and I assumed it was just another peculiar encounter in the library. As the night progressed, the number of patrons dwindled, leaving only a few individuals scattered throughout the vast expanse of bookshelves. Around 10:30 p.m., I made a closing announcement over the intercom, notifying the remaining patrons that the library would be closing in 30 minutes. It was the routine closing procedure, and I expected everyone to wrap up their activities and head towards the exit. At 11 p.m., I repeated the announcement, expecting to see the last few patrons leaving the premises. As far as I could tell, everyone had left, and I began to lock up the library for the night. However, as I made my way towards the exit, a faint noise caught my attention. It was the distinct sound of a book hitting the ground. My instincts kicked in, and I called out, "Hello? Is anyone still here?" No response. I felt a chill creeping up my spine, but I attributed it to the usual eerie atmosphere of a deserted library. I continued walking towards the exit, but another book fell, this time louder than before. My anxiety escalated, and I decided to investigate. I ventured deeper into the library, the only sound being the echo of my footsteps against the rows of shelves. I called out again, but there was only silence. As I reached the far end of the library, near the fiction section, I heard footsteps. They were faint, but they were unmistakably there. Feeling a mixture of fear and frustration, I shouted, "Hey! We're closed. You need to leave." Still no response. The silence was interrupted by the sudden crash of more books hitting the floor. It was as if someone was deliberately causing a disturbance. I tightened my grip on the keys, preparing myself for a potential confrontation. Suddenly, out of the shadows, a figure emerged and began running towards me. Panic set in as I realized that someone had been hiding in the library the whole time. I shouted for the intruder to stop, but my words seemed to fall on deaf ears. The mysterious figure sprinted past me, making a beeline for the exit, and disappeared into the night. I stood there, heart pounding, trying to comprehend what had just happened. The library, which had been peaceful only minutes ago, now felt like a haunted labyrinth. I didn't call the police, convinced that it was perhaps a prank played by friends or a local troublemaker. After that incident, I continued working at the library, but the experience lingered in the back of my mind. 2 years have passed since that night, and nothing similar has occurred. Still, whenever I'm alone in the dimly lit library, I can't help but wonder if the mysterious intruder might return, turning the familiar shelves into a place of uncertainty and fear once again. It was a gloomy Saturday morning, the kind that sends shivers down your spine even before anything unusual happens. The library, a place that usually brought me comfort and joy, was about to become the setting of a chilling encounter that would haunt my memories for years to come. My mom and I arrived at the library, a quaint building nestled on the corner of the street. I was just a little kid back then, full of curiosity and a love for books. As we stepped inside, the musty scent of old pages filled the air, and the hushed whispers of other patrons created an atmosphere of tranquility. Little did I know, that tranquility was about to be shattered. My mom informed me that she needed to run some errands nearby and instructed me to stay in the children's section until she returned. Eager to explore the vast world of stories, I headed towards the shelves filled with colorful and enchanting books. One particular fantasy book caught my eye, and I lost myself in its pages. As I delved into the imaginary realms, time slipped away. About 10 minutes later, an elderly woman approached me. She seemed harmless at first glance, her silver hair neatly arranged and her wrinkles telling tales of a long life. She claimed that my mom had sent her to take me to the nearby shop where she was currently shopping. Alarm bells rang in my young mind. My mom had never mentioned any such arrangement, and a wave of unease washed over me. Skeptical, I told her that my mom wouldn't let me go with strangers. However, she insisted that everything was fine, assuring me that she knew my mom well. Naively, I decided to trust her, a decision that would soon prove to be a grave mistake. We started walking towards the library's exit, the elderly woman leading the way. But just as we were about to step outside, a man, seemingly appearing out of thin air, stopped us. He asked me if I knew the woman, and my response was an honest no. The man's stern expression shifted into one of concern, and he informed me that he couldn't let me leave with her. He even threatened to call the police if necessary. My heart raced as I stood frozen in confusion. The elderly woman's facade crumbled, revealing the danger that lurked beneath. Panic set in as the man stood between us, shielding me from a potential threat that I was oblivious to. She left abruptly, disappearing into the shadows from whence she came. The man, a guardian angel in that moment, told me to stay put until my mom returned. My little world had tilted on its axis, and fear clung to me like a second skin. 15 agonizing minutes later, my mom returned. I spilled the entire story, my voice trembling with the remnants of fear. Gratitude filled her eyes as she thanked the man who had intervened, preventing a sinister fate that could have befallen me. Despite the relief, my mom couldn't help but scold me for believing a stranger's deceitful tale. It was a lesson learned the hard way, and the memory of that eerie encounter has lingered with me ever since. Sometimes, even now, I find myself pondering the chilling what-ifs. What could have happened if I had walked out of the library with that mysterious and malevolent stranger? The library, once a sanctuary of stories, had become the backdrop of a horror tale from my childhood, a cautionary reminder of the dangers that can lurk in the most unexpected places. As a typical, financially strapped college student, the demands of my coursework often took precedence over the allure of a carefree Friday night. On this particular evening, I found myself engrossed in a project that aimed to unravel the mysteries of the human brain. The library, with its vast collection of resources, became the natural habitat for my academic pursuits. Little did I know that this seemingly routine trip would evolve into a harrowing experience. As the clock struck 10 p.m., I decided to trade the prospect of a night filled with potential festivities for the solemnity of the library's silent halls. Stepping into the dimly lit space, I exchanged nods with the librarian and surveyed the room's remaining occupants. A handful of diligent souls, each immersed in their studies, dotted the library landscape. My attention was abruptly diverted by the presence of a man whose movements seemed to exude an air of suspicion. His furtive glances and awkward demeanor didn't escape my notice, and an unsettling feeling washed over me. In a peculiar sequence of events, it became apparent that he was attempting to capture surreptitious images of me. The unsettling revelation left me on edge, prompting me to glance repeatedly in his direction. In an effort to shake off the discomfort, I redirected my focus to the research at hand, eager to make headway before the library's closing time. The librarian's announcement that the library would soon shut its doors prompted a sense of urgency. As I gathered my belongings, I discreetly scanned the room for the enigmatic man, but he had seemingly vanished into the shadows. Stepping out into the quiet night, a mix of relief and lingering apprehension enveloped me. To my dismay, the suspicious man reappeared, sprinting towards me with an alarming determination. Before I could comprehend the unfolding situation, I found myself forcefully shoved to the ground, the glint of a knife catching my eye. Panic surged as he demanded my valuables, leaving me defenseless in the dimly illuminated surroundings. As abruptly as he had appeared, the assailant disappeared into the night, leaving me shaken and disoriented. I fumbled to my feet, only to realize that my phone, a lifeline to summon help, was now in the possession of the mysterious stranger. Stumbling back to my college dorm, I grappled with the trauma of the encounter, and using my roommate's phone, I dialed the police to recount the distressing incident. To my disappointment, the urgency in the police response seemed lacking. The absence of physical harm in the encounter downplayed the severity of the situation in their eyes. The search for the assailant, who had not only robbed me but also instilled a profound fear, lacked the vigor and determination I had anticipated. Unanswered questions swirled in my mind, particularly concerning the man's motive for capturing those clandestine images. The library, once a sanctuary for intellectual exploration, had transformed into a haunting space. The shadows that danced across the bookshelves now held a sinister significance, and the fear that had been etched into that Friday night lingered in my psyche. A once familiar haven became a realm of trepidation, altering my perceptions of safety, trust, and the unseen dangers that lurk in the dark corners of our everyday lives.